Hola, I'm Lucía, your Spanish teacher. Let's talk about how you can move to Spain from the United States. We're going to look at your visas, how you can stay in Spain long term, like years. I'm going to break down how much actually costs to live in Spain, and the most exciting part, where in all Spain you could live. I know this isn't my usual type of video, but I have had quite a few students reaching out and asking me how they can live in Spain. So here we are. I've created a free PDF where you can see all the information in a bit more detail. But anyway, you know, Spain is calling. Let's see what's possible. Vale, let's start with the big question. How can you actually move to Spain? I mean, legally and for real. There are a few visa options, and the right one for you will depend on your lifestyle, your work situation, and what kind of life you're dreaming of. So, the first one is the student visa. And no, don't worry, you're not going back to university with this visa. This is actually one of the most accessible options out there. You just need to enroll in an approved course, usually a Spanish language school. And that becomes your official reason for being in Spain. You are not going to learn Spanish 24/7. As long as your course lasts more than 3 months and includes enough study hours each week, you can apply. You will also need to show that you've got about €700 a month to live on. The good news is that once you're in Spain, you can legally work up to 30 hours a week. There are thousands of language schools in Spain, and if you need help choosing, I'm here. Contact me because at the end of the day, I'm your Spanish teacher. Alright, then we have the Language Assistant Program. You will be working in a local school helping Spanish students with conversational English. You will get paid around 800 to 1,000 euro per month, depending on the city. And you will be working around 16 hours. So I think you will have plenty of time left to enjoy your Spanish life. If you need to work more, you can also teach private English lessons on the side, up to 30 hours a week if you want. This program is usually called Auxiliares de Conversación, and it's run by the Spanish government. So to apply, you usually need a bachelor's degree, a clean background check, and a basic level of Spanish. Basic, okay? So don't stress, because you can get basic conversational pretty easily. This program runs from October to May, and if you enjoy it, you can renew for a second year. By the way, you need to be between 18 and 59 years old at the time of applying. And you can bring your family or your partner with you. I think this is actually a really great option. So many of my American friends have done it in Granada, and it's an amazing experience. I did it myself in China, so I really recommend it. Next is the Digital Nomad Visa. With this visa, you can legally live in Spain and working remotely, as long as your work is based with a company outside Spain. To apply for the Digital Nomad Visa, you have to show that you're actually qualified to do this remote job, and you have 2 ways to prove that. Either you have a university degree from a well-known and respected school, or if you don't have a degree, that's okay too. You can still apply. As long as you've been doing this kind of work for at least 3 years, you're good. Basically, they just want to make sure that you're not making this up and that you are a real professional doing a real work. This visa requires a bit more of money. You need to show that you're earning at least €2,200 per month, and a bit more if you are planning to bring your partner or your kids. You can stay for up to a year in Spain, but once you're in Spain, you can apply for a longer residence permit too. There is also the non-lucrative visa, which is for people who don't plan to work. Maybe you are retired, you are taking a sabbatical year, or you just want to slow down. This visa allows you to live in Spain as long as you can show stable funds, around 2,400 euro per month or 28,000 euros in savings if you're applying for a year. You can renew it twice. So in total, you can stay in Spain for 5 years on the non-lucrative visa, which is pretty good. You won't be allowed to work, but it's perfect if you just want to rest by the sea and eat tapas all day long. And finally, there is the work visa. But I'll be honest, this one is trickier. You need a Spanish employer to sponsor you, but they have to prove that no other European citizen could do the job instead. And that's the hard part. That's why for most people, this isn't the first route in. And that's it. Those are the main pathways, and each one opens its own kind of door. If one made you pause and think, wait a second, this could actually work for me, then you are closer than you think. So before we move on, let's see a quick rundown. You can legally work in Spain with all these visas except the non-lucrative visa. With the student visa and the digital nomad visa, there are just a few restrictions to keep in mind. On the student visa, you can work up to 30 hours a week. On the digital nomad visa, your income has to come primarily from outside Spain. I have explained all of that clearly and with more detail in the free PDF below. So don't worry if you're still wrapping your head around the detail, it's completely normal. And listen, if you're moving to Spain, learning Spanish goes a long way. A basic level can open doors, build trust, and it shows locals that you're making the effort. It really means a lot and people really notice. So if you're just starting your Spanish journey, I've got a free mini course and a grammar guidebook with a vocabulary builder and a bunch of videos that teach Spanish in a way that usually feels fun and connected to real life. So you'll find all the links below. So you're probably wondering, can I really stay in Spain? Not just for a few months, but for good? And the answer is sí. It is absolutely possible, and it is not as complicated as you might think. You can live in Spain long term. You can build a life there. And if you want to, you can even become a Spanish citizen, which means that you can also live and travel around Europe. It all begins with your first long stay visa. All of the visas that we have seen can be renewed or extended. In most cases, you can stay on the same visa for multiple years. And if your situation changes, don't worry, you can often switch to another visa type from within Spain. What matters most is that you are living in Spain legally and continuously for 5 years, even if you change visa types along the way. That's the magic number, 5 years. Because after 5 years, you can apply for permanent residency. No more visa, no more paperwork, and no more stress. Then after 10 years of legal residence, you can even apply for a Spanish citizenship. You will have to renounce to your US citizenship to become Spanish, but that's a personal decision and, well, the option is there. You can start with one visa and build your life from there. 1 year becomes 2, then 5, and then maybe a lifetime. But it all starts with taking that first step. Now let's talk about the cost of living in Spain, because this is one of the things that makes the idea of moving not just possible, but sustainable. I want to give you an idea, not to overwhelm you with numbers, but so you can start picturing what life might look like in Spain. Obviously, it will depend on your lifestyle, but compared to the US, life in Spain is often way more affordable and more accessible. You can live comfortably without needing a huge income. Like everywhere else, the cost of living depends on where you choose to live. You could live in the capital, Madrid, a big and international city, but you could also live in smaller cities like Granada or Malaga, or even in a small town or pueblo. So, let's compare these three options. Let's start with rent. If you want to live in a big city like Madrid, renting a small apartment can cost you anywhere from 900 to 1,500 euro per month, or even more, depending on the area and the apartment. But for example, in Granada, things are much more affordable. You can usually find something between 550 euro and 750 euro a month. Last year, I was living in a one-bedroom place in the center and I was paying 550 euro a month. So yep, it is very doable. And if you are thinking about moving to a small town, rent gets even lower, usually between 400 euro and 600 euro per month. Muy bien, let's look at the monthly bills. You know, water, electricity, internet, it all adds up. It does depend where you live in Spain, but it goes between 125 euro a month and 250 euro. But of course, it also depends on your usage. When I was living in Granada, I cooked most of the time, and my grocery budget was about 50 euro per week for me and my husband. And that pretty much covered everything for us. I would say that on average, you can spend between 50 and 100 euro per week on food in Spain. It depends a lot on what you like to eat, obviously, and how often you cook. But trust me, when you move to Spain, Mercadona will be your best friend. And if you don't feel like cooking all the time, you can eat out. It's totally an option. A typical menú del día, menu of the day, usually with a drink, bread, dessert, and two dishes, is about 18 euro in Madrid, around 12 euro in Granada, and in a small town, it shouldn't be more than 10 euro. I am sure that you know about tapas, right? Well, in Granada is where you find the true tapas because they are free. Free food with every drink. And in the rest of Spain, you have to pay for them. So you should consider Granada. Another thing, transport really depends on your lifestyle. When I was using the metro and buses regularly, I would spend around 60 euro per month. There are monthly passes that make it easier and cheaper if you use public transport a lot. It is usually around 70 or 80 euro maximum a month. By smaller towns, you probably won't need any transport because everything is walkable. So in total, that can be anywhere between 800 euro and 2,500 euro a month. So no, I don't think that you need to be rich to live in Spain. Another thing, in big cities, you can get by with English, but if you really want to live in Spain, learning Spanish opens the door. You don't need to be fluent because a few words go a long way. And if you want to start learning, I've got a free beginner's guide and lots of simple lessons linked below to help you get going. Now that you know that it's possible to live in Spain and how much life costs, let's talk about something a little bit more exciting. Where in all of Spain do you actually want to live? Because Spain isn't the same everywhere. It's a country with a lot of variety, different landscapes, different climates, and different vibes. If you imagine yourself walking by the sea, eating fresh fish, and enjoying sunshine almost all the year, the coast might be a perfect place. Places like Valencia, Málaga, Cádiz, or even Las Islas Canarias, the Canary Island. Life there is slower, more relaxed. People spend a lot of time outside. You can eat lunch on a terrace, go for a swim, and wear sandals most of the year. Summers can be very hot, but winters are easy. You probably won't need a heavy coat. But if you like green landscapes, forests, and cooler weather, you can go up to the north. Places like Galicia, Asturias, and the Basque country, El País Vasco, are beautiful. The weather is a bit rainy, but the air is fresh, the beaches are gorgeous, and the food is amazing. It's also less touristy, which means more space, more quiet, and maybe more chances to speak Spanish. If you do prefer more energy and more things going on, cities like Madrid or Barcelona offer that. But they're also more expensive and sometimes a bit more intense. So it really depends on your personality and what kind of life you want. As you all know, I am in love with Andalusia. And for me, there is no other part of Spain that I could live in. You've got the mountains, you've got the beaches, the small white villages, and the orange trees in the streets. And of course, you've got the sun. Maybe a bit too much in the summer, but nothing that the AC and a beach couldn't fix. So now you know. Moving to Spain is not some crazy dream, it's actually doable. And honestly, it might be one of the best decisions that you have ever made. Let me know in the comments where you would like to live in Spain. There are visas that work for different kinds of lives. The cost of living makes a lot more sense in Spain than in the US. And Spain, well, Spain gives you everything: mountains, beaches, bustling cities, sleepy towns, sunshine, good food. Whatever you want, you will find it in Spain. If you want a bit more detail, I've put everything into a free PDF guide that you can download below. But honestly, if today you just walk away with this one thought, hey, maybe this could actually work for me, then that's enough, because Spain is not going anywhere. And if it's calling you, maybe it's time to answer.